What's the number one sign of an eating disorder, or the number one sign of a dieting mentality, or the number one sign that you're somehow off when it relates to food? The number one sign, and I'll tell you how to identify the sign and probably the best tip to overcome it as well. The number one sign and symptom is obsessive thinking. So just this morning, I interviewed a woman in Ireland. She's in Ireland. She's a neuroscientist, really special woman. She used to have an eating disorder. She beat it, but she said the key thing was when she got help, and the person who she was getting help from asked her, "How often do you think about food?" And she thought in her head. She's like, "Well, I just was in class." This is back when she was in university, but she said, "I was just in class and I don't even know what happened because all I could think about was food. All I was thinking about was how hungry I was." She says this happens a lot. She's daydreaming about food, even fantasizing about food. And then she's even like afraid to eat, right? So she was thinking about food while she was eating it, like afraid of it, afraid that this food was going to make her fat, afraid this food had too many calories, etc., etc. So my question to you is, are you constantly thinking about food? Are you constantly thinking about food? Because that's the number one sign you're not living your ideal lifestyle. And that's what this woman did. She is now living a much, much better lifestyle because when she was able to kind of unplug her, or I'll say clear her bandwidth of all that mental chatter around food, she started traveling more. She got into a relationship. She started living her life. She wasn't being held back by her weight or her thoughts about food. Like she said she'd always had these fantasies about traveling, but she'd always would say that she needed to be slimmer before she would travel. She needed to lose the weight before she would travel. And then because she was always holding herself back with food and concerns about weight, she was never living her life. She was suffering tons of anxiety. And when she finally was able to flip that switch around obsessive thinking around food, her whole life opened up. And she became just a lot happier. She's now in Ireland now, so that's if that's not proof in the pudding. But so how did she do it? What enabled her? Her name's Amy Epoch, by the way. You can go to Now Body Wellness. What enabled her to spot this obsessive thinking and counter it? Well, it came down to one simple concept that I feel totally resonates with this whole weight loss enlightenment. Well, when we talk about enlightenment, it means seeing the truth. It means seeing the truth. It means living in alignment with truth. Weight loss enlightenment is not about losing weight. It's about feeling lighter as a result of aligning ourselves with truth. It's aligning ourselves with our inner light. It's aligning ourselves with the truth. So she had to catch her obsessive thinking and then shine light on it. So when you shine light on obsessive thinking, it means you're shining the truth on it. So she would have a thought. I just overate, so I need to go burn off the calories, right? In order to lose the weight. So she would catch that thought and then she'd challenge it. She would question it. She would not just go along with a thought. She would shine the light on it. She would say, "Well, thought, is that really true that I'm going to burn off weight by exercising?" You know, when you get education around this stuff, you start to realize that exercise is great, but it's really not that good for weight loss. Like, you only burn a few hundred calories exercising. And most of those calories are not from fat storages. It's from glucose storages. To actually get into fat storages, it's a lot of exercise. So it's just not worth it to exercise to lose weight. So she would catch that thought. She'd catch her default obsessive thinking going on and on and on, and she would catch it or bring awareness to it, bring light to it. She'd shine the light on it. She'd say, "Is that true? Or are you trying to bring darkness into my life?" And she would see the truth of this. And by seeing the truth, she'd say, "Well, I feel guilty right now because I ate food. And this guilt is making me want to exercise to remove the guilt. The thought is that I can lose weight to make up for the food I ate, and that way the guilt will be gone. But first of all, when I exercise, I'm really not going to lose weight because of the exercise. And second of all, should I feel guilty? So she started questioning the assumptions underlying her obsessive thinking. And there's more to it than this. She's been on a huge journey. But the number one symptom that got her help, that got her support, that got her to transform was realizing she was thinking about food all the time. All the time. And if that's you, it's okay. Don't worry. One of the tools and techniques you can use is to start catching those thoughts and questioning their truth. Another example of catching the thought and examining the truth, bringing the light to it, is where you, sometimes you might feel really guilty after binging. Well, when you get education, you start to see this feast-famine cycle. So your feasting is binging, famine is where you're not eating enough. So if you're not eating enough, the natural instinct of your body is going to be to eat a lot of food. So instead of feeling guilty around here, the thought might be like, oh, you lost all your willpower. You're so lazy and unmotivated. The thought might be kind of self-criticism. But when you can catch the thought and examine the truth behind it, you start to say, okay, here's the thought. Well, should I really feel guilty or think that I lost willpower when I was starving? When my biology, when my body chemistry was pumping out extra neuropeptide Y. Neuropeptide Y, when you get into this science, it makes carbs and calories literally more valuable. So your brain is now seeing carbs and calories like they're gold. And of course your body's going to overeat. Of course, that's biology. That's not willpower. There's nothing to be guilty about. You just got to realize that when you're starving, you're going to eat as a result. So there's no guilt there. So she was able to catch the thought, bring awareness, shine light onto the truth, and then free herself from these thoughts. And this is a cycle that goes on and on. It repeats itself, and you get better at it. It's a skill. And it's just, these are one of the ways you can become free from obsessive compulsive food behaviors. Now, if you'd like, what I do is I do this like crazy in-depth training, but it's not for everyone. Basically, there's a session online. If you sign up for the session, you can't schedule it right away. You'll have to book it out in a week in advance, because when you schedule the session, you're going to get all these materials on how to do some of these techniques, like catching thoughts or even taking away a scale. Like oftentimes, if you sign up for the session, there's you'll see a worksheet with a picture of a scale and then directions on how you can let go of this scale. Because oftentimes some of these thoughts, they get triggered when we step onto the scale, and you step on the scale and you look down and you think, oh God, I haven't lost any weight today, or I've gained a pound, or I've only lost this pound. Pretty much it's always negative, right? Even if you lose a weight, it's like, oh, that's not enough weight I lost, right? And so putting away the scale and doing a little exercise to let it go, so that you don't have any regrets about letting the scale go. I ask people to try some of these exercises before they actually sign up for a session with me. So that way when we have this complimentary session, you're in the thick of it. Like, you're ready to go. And that way we can have this really productive conversation. So that's at weightlossenlightenment.com/free strategy session. weightlossenlightenment.com/free strategy session. It's time for you to get a hold of your crazy obsessive thinking around food. If that's you, it's time to get a hold of it. No shame, no stigma. Oftentimes people will worry and judge themselves and want to deny the fact that they have a problem with food because it's embarrassing. But here's the truth of the matter, and this is how we have the Buddha's compassion right here. Compassion means, for me personally, I know a lot of people do this, but when we were young, or somehow we developed mechanisms, for me it was thinking. I protect myself through thinking. I used to protect myself through food. So when we were growing up, we had these tremendously terrifying emotions that we didn't have the skills to manage. A child, when they're young, they don't have the skills to say, "Oh, that's not a big deal. Like, I'll be good the next day." A child is in the moment. Like, children are in the moment. So when they're sad, they get overwhelmed with sadness. And sometimes children, they develop ways of managing sadness. For me, it was thinking and organizing. Other times people manage sadness with food or anxiety with food. So if you're trying to deal with if you're trying to manage your emotions, if you're constantly trying to control your food, that's a sign. If you're constantly trying to think about your food and control your food, that's a sign you're actually trying to manage your anxiety. All right? So basically you learned that controlling food can actually help you control your anxiety, right? And so when we get into that kind of understanding, that's when we can transform. That's when we can actually become free of that underlying anxiety and create that mental bandwidth for you to live your best life. And that's what I want from you. So you can go to weightlossenlightenment.com/free strategy session. Remember, the number one sign of a eating disorder or binge eating disorder is this obsessive thinking. But that obsessive thinking isn't bad. It's just something that you learned as a way to manage your anxiety. And as you learn to shine light onto your anxiety, which can be a little bit of anxiety provoking, but that's why I'm here. When you learn to do that, you can really step into a greater sense of power and well-being and confidence and live your best life. All right. See you soon. Peace.